So the two stars hate each other. And then they couldn't put dwarfs.
Before we dive into how things started unraveling, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're into deep dives like this. How does a studio that practically invented fairy tale magic spend $200 million, rewrite a beloved princess from the ground up, and still walk away with one of the coldest openings in its history? The answer starts with a dream, swerves into a culture war pileup, and ends on BillMaher's punchline reel. By the time the lights came up on opening weekend, the only thing whiter than the screen was the sheet Disney used to tally its losses. For years, the remake shimmered on Disney's slate like a sure thing. Announced in 2016, it promised Greta Gerwig Polish, Benj Pasek, and Justin Paul showstoppers, and a spring 2024 release that would glide straight into family wallets.
The controversies surrounding Disney's Snow White remake show that we are still in the thick of the culture.
Then the dual WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes hit, and the studio punted the premiere a full year to March 21st, 2025, an unmistakable sign of jitters beneath the fairy dust. Delays are costly. Delays on a sprawling UK backlot set are catastrophic. By the time the final slate clapped, insiders whispered that the budget had soared past $240 million, an eye-watering figure confirmed in multiple trades. Worse, a Guardian-commissioned climate audit pegged the shoot's carbon footprint at 3,153 tons CO2e, heavier than the most recent Fast and Furious sequel. The internet, already circling for controversy, scented fresh blood. But the spark that lit the bonfire wasn't dollars or diesel. It was a single interview clip. In late 2022,
and then Rachel Zegler plays Snow White. I think Gal plays the. I was not a child, so I don't follow.
Rachel Zegler, fresh off West Side Story glory and handpicked to play Disney's first Latina Snow White, told Extra that the 1937 cartoon centered on a guy who literally stalks her. Weird. She added that her Snow White isn't going to be saved by the prince. The quote ricocheted across TikTok, trimmed to 8 scathing seconds that made her sound as if she loathed the very movie she was remaking.
And Rachel Zegler, being 23 or whatever she is, like so many kids raised on TikTok.
Within hours, the backlash sprouted its own hashtag. Some applauded a modern spin. Others bristled at the sneer in her tone. Zegler doubled down on social media, weaving political barbs about elections and Gaza into her feed. Views well within her rights, but catnip for detractors who framed her as another preachy star lecturing the audience. Screenshots piled up faster than Disney's marketing team could draft clarifications. Enter Peter Dinklage. In January 2022, the Game of Thrones icon blasted Disney for planning to tell the story of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs but still use dwarfs living in a cave. He called the concept fucking backwards. Disney's response was swift. The dwarfs were out, replaced by magical creatures. Sensitivity seemed noble, until dozens of little-person actors publicly begged for the work they had just lost. The studio wobbled, reshot crowd scenes, and finally landed on a single dwarf plus 6 CGI companions. To critics, it looked like inclusion by subtraction. That was the opening BillMaher needed. 2 weeks before the premiere, he dedicated a real-time monologue to what he called Disney's progressive pretzel. They cut the dwarfs to be woke, he quipped, and cut dwarf actors right out of the payroll. That's not progress. That's a snake eating its own inclusive tail. Clips of the rant hit X, Instagram, and YouTube overnight, racking up millions of views and introducing mainstream audiences to a controversy they hadn't known or cared about. Meanwhile, Disney's marketing tried to pivot back to wonder. Trailers pushed sweeping forest vistas and Gal Gadot's regal cackle as the evil queen. What they didn't push was romance. In the new script, the prince, renamed Jonathan, appears for fewer than 6 minutes, and his climactic kiss is nowhere to be found. Pasek and Paul replaced "Someday My Prince Will Come" with power anthems about self-actualization. Early test screeners reported catchy hooks but zero goosebumps. For a generation raised on Let It Go, the bar is sky high. This soundtrack brushed it, then slipped. Opening night told the tale. Analysts had penciled in $85 million domestic. The movie scraped $43 million, a figure closer to John Carter than Beauty and the Beast. Empty seat photos flooded Reddit. The Lewistown Sentinel ran a local headline. Live-action Snow White receives mixed reviews, and rows of empty chairs. Within 72 hours, the New York Post projected a $115 million loss, citing soft international numbers and marketing costs that ballooned once reshoots Disney's PR arm pointed to glowing notices for Godot's icy villainy and Zegler's crystalline vocals, but the narrative was already carved in stone. This Snow White didn't just miss the apple. She tripped on the route, rolled downhill, and landed on Maher's punchline reel. Memes plastered the evil queen's mirror with audience score 29%. TikTok stitched Zegler's 2022 stalker soundbite onto clips of vacant theaters. In the attention economy, perception is reality, and reality was brutal. Back-channel gossip suggested frost on set long before premiere night. Entertainment Weekly pundits noted creative friction between Godot, an outspoken supporter of Israel, and Zegler, who reposted pro-Palestinian threads during the 2024 Gaza escalation. Whether that tension bled on screen is debatable, but it fueled an online narrative of a divided production. Adding insult to insolvency, The Guardian report on the film's carbon load dropped 3 days before wide release. Environmental watchdogs seized the stat line. 3,000
midget, dwarf, they're out of work. They're replaced by CGI things.
1,153 tons of emissions, more than Birmingham Airport produces in a month. Climate-minded parents already wary of the controversy found another reason to stay home. By week 2, Disney trimmed marketing spends, pulled the Spanish junket, and shortened theatrical exclusivity to 45 days in hopes of juicing Disney Plus subscriptions. Analysts called it damage control masquerading as strategy. Internal sources leaked that several upcoming remakes, Tangled, The Princess and the Frog, were quietly reevaluating tone, budget, and casting rollouts. Nobody wanted the next billion-dollar IP to wear the scarlet W for woke bomb. Yet amid the ashes lies a blueprint for survival. Audiences didn't reject change. They rejected condescension. When Cinderella 2015 honored its classic beats while granting Ella agency, it earned $500 million and a fresh generation of fans. When Aladdin let Jasmine belt, speechless, but still leaned into its carpet ride romance, it crossed the $1 billion mark. The difference is respect. Update the drapes, sure, but don't bulldoze the castle. BillMaher's closing jab distilled the lesson. You can preach or you can enchant. Do both, and you'd better be Shakespeare. The studio aimed for a 21st century manifesto and mislaid the timeless heart that made little kids gasp in 1937. Instead of asking how to share the magic with new eyes, it lectured the old ones for loving it wrong. In the weeks since, Zegler has softened her stance, praising the original's historic importance in a Teen Vogue Q&A and thanking fans who grew up on the cartoon and still gave our version a chance. The apology earned polite headlines, but couldn't reverse first impressions. Hollywood may forgive a flop. Audiences rarely forget a sneer. So what now? Industry insiders whisper about an extended director's cut, restoring more musical moments and dwarf cameos for Disney+. Maybe it lands, maybe it languishes. Either way, the real legacy of this remake won't be its carbon stats or its balance sheet. It will be the cautionary quote tacked on every...
Doesn't need a prince to save her, and not surrounded by 7 weird people. Oh, okay, just CGI fictional goblins, I guess.
Every studio whiteboard from Burbank to Burbank East. Modernize the trimmings, not the heartbeat. Because at the end of the day, Snow White's fatal apple wasn't poison. It was hubris. A story that once taught children to whistle while they worked became a lecture on why whistling is problematic. And when the curtain fell, the mirror told the truth no studio executive wants to hear. The fairest of them all is still the one that makes audiences feel like happily ever after is possible. So the next time a producer brandishes a beloved tale and says, "Let's fix it," remember the dwarfs who vanished, the prince who lost his kiss, and the princess who talked herself into a box office blizzard. Then ask the only question that matters. Are we adding new sparkle, or are we sanding off the shine? If the answer is the latter, you don't need a magic mirror to predict the ending. Just listen for BillMaher's laughter echoing down the hall. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories just like this. Drop a comment and let us know what you think. We're reading all of them.